Okay, welcome back. The last thing I'm going to do is actually this hover effect on here. You can see it kind of comes in really slowly onto it, and we're missing that from ours. So if we add onto our, I'm going to do it on the A tag. So we just want to say hover text gray 900. Then we get, we should get a hover. Did I break something? Link a hover text gray 900. Okay, so if I do on the A tag, if I put this text color here, this will work now. Yeah, so we've got this hover, and we can do animations, relatively simple animations with Tailwind. So we can do, we can add transition, and we can just do colors. And you can see that will add the transition property for background color, border color, and then just color, which of course is a text color, which is what we want. And that gives it a default duration of 150 milliseconds. So if we refresh that, you can see it does slow it down a little bit, but we can also specify the duration of 500, which is going to make it nice and slow, like the one on Twitter. So cool. So I think we're looking pretty good. Of course, we could play around with this for quite a while. I think it's probably more like 500 for this. You know, we could change the text and we can mess around getting it exactly, but you know, it's beyond the scope of this. Hopefully I'm giving you the tools so you can go away and do this stuff on your own and make it as perfect as you like. So now what we want is to actually do something when we navigate to our single post page. So let's look at that functionality now. So essentially, this post/slug, again, it's capturing everything that comes in as in the URL as /post/ absolutely anything. So what we wanted to do is essentially, you know, request comes in, we want to try and fetch data. If we get data, then we want to show the data. If we don't get data, we want it to fall off, because there's no post there at all. And we're going to be doing this using getStaticProps, getStaticPaths, and we're going to be using fallback. So I will go through that. Let's get started with that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say export async function getStaticProps, and within this function we're going to try and fetch data. We're going to take in the data here. Actually, let's just do it. Let's do it as we go. So we're going to need a query equals grok. Can I import that? Let's have a look. Yep. So we've got a query here. The query is going to be quite simple, but we do need the slug. So when I'm referring to slug, I mean this URL parameter slug, which will be everything after the URL. So let me just show you what I mean by this. So we're taking the params into getStaticProps, and then just say const slug equals params. So we're just destructuring the slug from the params. That would be the same as saying like const slug equals params.slug, like that. And then in order for this to work, I will need to return, so I'm going to return the props, and I'm just going to return the slug for now. So I'm going to take in here the slug. Actually, let's just console log the slug here. So anything happening inside getStaticProps again is happening on the server side. So when I refresh this, I need to go into the console on the server. It's erroring right now because we don't have getStaticPaths. So let me add getStaticPaths, and I'm going to explain that afterwards. So let's just do export function function get static paths, and this function needs to return an object which has all of your paths, and then we're going to set a fallback mode to true. Now bear with me, I will explain this here in a second. So we're now working and we should see the slug. So if I go here and just change this look and just put a load of random string in there, and we go back, we get the random string as our slug. So hopefully it makes sense now that this slug is coming from the actual URL. So where we go to a different post, so if we go to this post about Bitcoin price, we will see the Bitcoin price slug. Okay, cool. So that's what we want. The next thing we're going to do is write our query. So we actually see if we can get the data. Because remember, if we've got the slug now, so we need that to fetch the post data from the database. And if we find post data, then that means there's a post there. So get static paths is essentially when we deploy our website, Next.js knows about our index page because we've got it right here. If we had an about page or a contact page here, it would know about them because they're here in our file directory and it knows about them. However, with a dynamic route like this, you know, there's any possible number of combinations of slugs, and it doesn't know if we have them or not. And we're going to figure out if we have them or not by, do you know what, do we have that slug in the database? So what that means is they'll try and navigate to the paths, and we could define the paths here. So if I just said, like, if I copied this slug into the paths, you know, it would mean that that page would be statically generated upon build time. Now you can do that. However, we're going to use incremental static regeneration, which basically means that if it comes to this page, it finds a slug. There's no path there because we're not actually going to declare any paths. It's going to then go to our get static props. It's going to try and fetch the data from the database, and if it can't find the data in the database, then it knows actually we don't have a page there. And the incremental regeneration part of that is, you know, once someone has visited one of these routes once, then it's statically generated and it's going to be served statically for a given amount of time. So we set that amount of time here in our get static props. So we say revalidate, revalidate, and then we'll just do 60 seconds times by 60 minutes times by 24 hours, like so. And that means that once the first person that visits a page in every 24-hour period will essentially, they will go into fallback mode because it won't find the path here. It will go fetch from the database, and it will then be statically generated for everyone else that comes to the page for the next 24 hours. So hopefully that makes sense. Now let's crack on with this query. So as you know, we want to start with the star bracket, and then we're going to define the type, which is going to be equal to a post. And the next thing that I want to do inside of the square brackets, and I just want to say and the slug dot current is equal to the actual slug that we've got here. So we do that, it looks a little bit weird, but we just say slug, like so. And then we just want to take the first one of those. So that returns an array. So let's see what we get. So we've got our query. So we can now import our client, import client from, we're going up a couple now, client, and then we just want to say const data equals await client.fetch query, and then let's console log.data. Let's refresh that. So I'm not seeing anything here. Did I refresh that too quick? Oh, of course, sorry, I'm looking in the total wrong place. My bad. So yeah, of course the get static props is happening on the server, so it's over here. So you can see this is our console log here. So we've got the post it was created at, we've got the reference to the author, we've got the body of the post, which is lots of different blocks of content. We'll talk about that soon. So yeah, we do have all of the post data there, so that did work. So let's now actually pull in that author information. So similar to how we did the last query, we put on these curly braces, and I'm going to take everything, so just ... So we take everything, and then I'm also going to take the author, and I just want the author name, author, and then we follow the reference and we get the name. So now we have this data. I believe we just call this post, and it should just be data like this. So let's have a look, and we should see it in the console now. When we take the post and we console log the post. Perfect. So we've now got our post, we've got the author. So yeah, we're good to go with our post data now. So that's good. So let's do a couple of things. So we're gonna need the image. So if we take, where do we do the image? Here. So we need these two. Like this. We're going to need this builder and URL for, so we're just gonna reuse those. Put those in there. We're also going to need, so what I want to do down here is, we're going to need the router, so import use router from next router. So first thing I want to do when we do a post, when we come to a post page, so I want to say if the router, we need to actually take the router, const router equals use router. So use router is a hook provided by the next router. So I want to say if router dot is fallback, and I just want to return, I just do a h1 saying load in, and then I want to be able to say if there is no post, and I want to return what do I want to return? So I want to return the fall row fall page here. So to do that in next, yeah, we don't want this. So to do that in next, we do import default error page from next/error. So if there's no post, I want to return. So with this one, we need to return the default error page, and status code equals 404. And then actually we need to set the head, so import head from next head, and then I just want to return a React fragment because we need to have multiple elements here. So I want to do head like this, and then we just need to return the meta tag, which says name equals robots, and we want to say content equals no index, because you don't want search engines indexing 404 pages, right? So hopefully everything we've done makes sense so far. If the router is in fallback mode, which means that we don't already have a static page in our paths, or we don't already have the static page generated by Next.js, then it's going to go out to get static props. It's going to try and find it based on the slug. So if it finds it, it's going to return it here. So yeah, if it's in fallback, we're going to have this load in. Feel free to grab a loading spinner and shove it in there. If we don't find a post, then we're going to 404. So if I just go and change this Bitcoin to something else, you can see now we load, we try and find it, and that shouldn't happen. So what did we actually get there? So we got a empty object. So get static props, return post is data. So we got post, router, post, and if there's no post. So we don't want an empty object, basically, because okay, we'll fix that one in a minute. Let me think about that one, because I'm not sure why it's returning an empty object. So let's actually crack on with getting our post page done. So let's return a div and another div. Remember, we've got to do our layout to match the other one. So we're going to have this div that encompasses everything, and we're going to have this next div, which is the smaller inside div, where we set the max width screen to XL, MX auto, and the background of that one needs to be white. So that should have everything in the center. And then our blog post, I actually want it to be like not very wide. So you'll see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to do class name. We want padding of 4, max width of 2XL, max-w-2XL. And then finally inside there, we can put our H1 with the post.title. So you can now see that we've got our layout done. And I need this to be in the center. So we've got our layout done, but the post content is quite narrow, which I think is good for a blog post. So the post title, let's make this big. So let's try 4XL. Let's do font bold, text gray 900. Let's put some padding top and bottom of it because it's quite close to the thing right now. Okay, that's looking good. And then of course beneath the H1 I want to add another div which has got the author name and stuff in it like that. So I'm going to add a span here which is going to say post.author, and the class name of this, let's do text blue 500. So that's good, and you can make this clickable if you want to add another dynamic route for the author. And then we want another span, and let's add in our date. So if you remember, we'll do new date, post.published at .toDateString, like that. And let's just do flags space x5 or something like that, and then I think we had small text on the other page, so maybe we do small text here too, and text gray 500 maybe. Yep, looking good. And then we want our image, so the next image tag like this. And with this one, we're just going to set a width and a height because it's got a max width even on a big screen. Let's try 800 and a height of 500 for now. And the source of the image, if you remember, we use URL 4, which takes in the post.main image, and then we need to get the URL of that, like so. Hey, and there's our image. So our image is looking very close to that. So if I make this a block and put padding bottom of 4, looking good. And this should all be absolutely fine for bigger screens as well, yeah. This div here, I want to actually do a minimum height of screen, just because if you notice before, it didn't span the full screen and it looked really bad. So yeah, we're pretty much there now, except we need our content. So we're going to import block content from the React library that we pulled in. So block content so it's provided by Sanity, and essentially this maps our block content to React components. I'll show you that in a second. So the block content takes two things. So we take block content like this. So you take the blocks, and if you remember on our post, we had an absolute load. So we've got an array here on our body of blocks. So we're essentially going to give this block content that array. So we say post.body, and that's the array of blocks that we're going to give it. And it's going to error now, so but don't worry. Okay, so it's actually working, but the other argument is it can take custom serializers. So if you're giving this to a client that does website blogs and they have code blocks and things like that, you can serialize different data inside the block content. So at the moment in our back end, we saw the block content has these sort of things. So all of these things will be handled by default. So just to show you a bit more better what it looks like, I want to add this pros class, but I don't think I installed Tailwind Typography. So just npm install @tailwind css/typography, like so, and that's going to give us a set of default styles, because this block content to React is giving us HTML content. So if I make this bigger, if we inspect this, oh, no, that's not what I want. Inspect element. If we have a look, sorry, we've got p tags, we've got a tags, we've got strong tags. We've got lots of stuff. So the strong tag worked, but nothing else worked, and that's because in Tailwind they remove all the base styles from text. So your H1s, they don't do anything normally. So Tailwind Typography provides this pros class, and I'm not sure why that's not working. Mix with 2XL. Pros. Yeah, that's what we did. Pros XL. Let me just restart the server. I know what the issue is. Come on, man. So we need to add it to our Tailwind. So if we do require Tailwind CSS/typography, there we go. That will fix it for sure. Okay, cool. So hopefully, I know this has been a bit of a longer video, but we're done now. We're finished. We've only got 3 posts. Now you're free to go and extend this as much as you want, but as for now, some ideas for extending it, by the way. Actually, one thing I'm noticing this pros class is actually smaller than the rest. There we go, that looks better. So yeah, if you want to extend this, I would say a couple of good places to start that we're going to cover in our more advanced courses. Where we've just got 3 posts here, of course, it will fetch a lot of posts if you have them, but you may want to paginate this, or as Twitter has it, having a see more option, and you can absolutely do this while also using get static props. So look into use SWR, and if you go into the documentation around usage with Next, you can see exactly how to do that. So you will initially fetch using get static props, but then if you click see more, it will then go and fetch on the client side to fetch more posts. So that's great, and you still get your static generation. So I would recommend adding that. Categories, it would be cool to have similar that Twitter has their tags. It would be cool to add the categories, and if you click the category, it should post from the categories. Again, you can statically render this by creating a category dynamic route. So if you created a category /slug, for example, you would need to add the category slug in your backend, in your Sanity backend, and you will be able to then switch between the categories, and also add in the functionality to scroll. Once you've added pagination and categories, I think you've pretty much got a nice complete blog which you would be able to comfortably use and have other people collaborate with you using the Sanity backend. You know, if someone else is writing blog posts, you can just add another author, and you know, this will work. This will be absolutely great. So hopefully this is a good introduction. Stay tuned for more advanced videos where we're going to tackle some more difficult things with Next.js, and I will see you in those next videos. Bye bye.